All right, here with Cody Johnson. For our money, one of the best live shows we've ever seen. So I wanted to ask you to start, how difficult you're kicking things back now with touring and kind of getting it going again, but you basically had a year and X amount of months of not being able to do what you do best, which is put on that live show and connect with your fans. How challenging was this last year during COVID and not being able to hit the road like you and the guys usually do?
Uh, I think it was a very eye-opening experience in that uh, I got to take some steps back that I hadn't been able to take in really 11 years. And the past 5, 6 years have been, I mean, you guys know, you've been following it. It's just go, 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 go. And I think you get used to stuff like that. You get used to playing 4 shows in the Midwest and then flying to New York and doing 3 days and flying to LA. And you don't realize the mental stress and the physical stress you're putting yourself under. But, when you're in that mode and you're providing for your fans and you're providing for your family, it's, you're thankful for your job and you go to work. But when it got taken away, I'll admit I was mad. Like I was pretty pissed at the world. And I had this thought in my head, like when Houston Rodeo got canceled, I was like, we lost that money. We lost money. We lost money. And it took me about a week, and I finally like changed my whole perspective. I changed my entire perspective of I didn't lose any money. I just didn't get the opportunity to make that money. And God gave me the gift to be able to sing and entertain and play and write. And he just said, hold on a little bit, take a deep breath and time out. And I didn't realize personally how much I needed the time out. I spent more time with my wife and kids than I ever had. Had the opportunity to really go, okay, my identity is not Cody Johnson. I am a husband and a father, and just a normal old country boy who likes to hunt and fish and team rope and ride horses. And I think I finally got to take a big enough deep breath where now that we're picking back up, I have a whole new sense of drive. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for
Definitely.
sure. And to your credit, you were one of the guys who I think did a great job of still doing the live streams, still connecting with fans. You even, I believe you were at was it a buddy's hunting ranch or somewhere where you shot some shows and you were playing some church services, I believe. Like you did a really good job of staying out there, still doing the streaming stuff, getting content out to your fans, but then also kind of took some time to slow down and reflect. Is the virtual thing, what does it kind of feel like? Is it kind of suck, or does it like, it's the best I can do?
I think you just got to play the cards you're dealt. And at that time, the world was, because of the media and because of social media and, in my opinion, because of agendas, people were so fearful, just fearful to go out and do anything. And you can't do anything about that besides go to the studio and play live. And it did suck. We would do those live streams and the energy just wasn't there. Me and my band were having fun playing. That energy from those people just wasn't there. I did miss that aspect of it. But like I said, that just made me want to come back stronger. It just made me want to come back with more of a fire under my belt.
Yeah, like I mentioned to kick this thing off, your live show is wild. The energy, the ups and downs in terms of what song you play when, slow it down, speed it up. But you do a really good job of like entertaining. I feel like some of our most viral posts ever were, some of your music specific. Maybe it was the George Strait cover back in the day when you're outside doing You Look So Good in Love, but also when you put somebody in their place, when they're getting a little rowdy or a girl gets hit in the crowd or something, or when you're doing one of your motivational type things or first responder speeches. Where does that come from? Is that just who you are? And then you feel like you're given this opportunity on stage, you should take advantage of it to kind of let the people know what you think, what you stand for, and kind of, because it adds a lot. Like I got jacked up. We posted that one not that long ago. And you're like, damn, this kid, like you were giving some pep talk to a kid, I believe. Wasn't that, Wes?
Yeah, it was
like those lines. It's great stuff. It really fills the void sometimes left if a live performer doesn't quite hit the energy levels.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, that's just me. That's really who I am. And I think I know because of purchasing horses and because of team roping and going out and really rodeoing hard for about the past 6-7 months, I think I've finally figured out who I am. You know, I've always defined myself of, okay, I'm Cody Johnson, the entertainer, the singer. But what I've been given is an opportunity to get on a microphone and preach the opposite of what media is preaching, preach the opposite of what social media is preaching, and preach positivity that this is still the United States of America and God is still alive and he can still bless America. You know, we don't have to live in fear. We don't have to live in that constant fear that, because I'm gonna tell you, I mean, and you guys know, you've seen me, you know, I'll have a drink with you. You've seen me. I'm not scared of a fight, but I do truly believe that God's in control of it. So I'm not going to sit around and be fearful of it. I'm not going to sit around and think, well, the world's going to end. It's all going over. You know, we've been through so much as a country. I think that I'm given the opportunity to have a microphone and I can either preach negativity or I can try to lift people up. And, you know, I want to be an example for those kids. You know, those kids, I watch the shows and they're watching me. I go to team ropings and those 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old boys are over there with their cell phone out, videoing me roping. So when I miss, do I cuss and throw my rope, or do I hang my head high and stick my chest out and say, it's okay? You know, I really feel like that's one of the callings of my career, is to be able to be a good example and to lift people up and show people, hey, you don't have to stay in negativity. No matter if the rest of the world is, you can be that light for other people. And, you know, whenever everything happened up in Minneapolis and everybody was, you can't talk, my record label, my manager, everybody was like, well, we can't talk about police officers. And I'm like, I don't understand that. I support our law enforcement. There's bad apples in every business. There's bad apples in my business. There's bad apples in your business. But that doesn't mean we're all bad. And I'm not going to throw the whole basket out for one apple. You know, without men and women that are willing to sacrifice their life for our country, we don't have a country. And right now, law enforcement and first responders and our veterans are getting run through the ringer for something that one person did or one person said. And I just think that's BS. I really do. I think that somebody's got to be able to stand up for not only country music, but our country. And if I can have a small role in doing that, I'd like to do it with class.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot. You mentioned the word perspective, or what I'm hearing a lot of is perspective, whether it's the way you look at the world through social media or just kind of what you went through not touring. And I think that's really important because you're still a really young guy and you're one of the most exciting. I think you're going to be even bigger year after year after year moving forward. But Wes and I have talked to a lot of artists, and I feel like we always use the word authenticity, which you are you, but like the word perspective is really interesting too, because I think that's a good way to put it, where you meet these young kids that get a record deal. And I just feel like perspective goes out the window, whether it's the money you're making, the girls are, you know, chasing you, or you're trying to go out there and be a single guy or whatever touring, or you're worried about partying, or you're worried about what's the image you put across, or you're on, like, we've said this before, but a lot of people we talk to, it's like they're on a script. We're like, hey, we're not recording this. We can just have a beer and be normal.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's the industry of being a celebrity. It can really suck you into a negative way of thinking, but also a way of kind of perceiving reality. And I feel like you did a good job of kind of pulling back.
Well, I think that's because of where I come from. You know, I come from humble beginnings. You know, as far as music, you know, very early on, the first 5 years of my career, whenever we were in the van going to play in all these bars, yeah, I mean, I was a kid, man. I was 21, 22 years old. Of course, I'm going to think I'm Elvis, you know, but it's like, eventually you got to get over that crap. You know, you got to get over it. And I think what you just said hit the nail on the head. It was, people get a record deal and then they're told how to look. They're told how to act. They're told how to dress. And then when they start making money, they think, well, I can do whatever I want. I can go out and party and do all this. But man, I'd love to have a beer and hang out around a campfire, or, you know, go to the team rope and sit around and have some cocktails and just talk, stuff like that. But my music and my show is not about me partying. It's about me facilitating you being able to party, you being able to shake off the problems that you have going on in your life, or the stuff that's bothering you about the world. I think when you put the cart before the horse, things get a little out of hand. And, you know, I've never been one of those guys that worries about money. And let me explain myself on that. I'm very, very involved in every aspect of my business and all my businesses, whether it's cologne, the hats, the sunglasses, you know, the side investments and stuff that I've got going on with my wife and things like that. I'm very involved in it, and I do pay attention as a provider for not only my family, but the families of all these guys that have entrusted their lives to me. But when it comes down to money, I just don't care about it. It's the root of all evil, and I never really placed any importance on it. And the funny thing is the more I've placed that importance, the more that I've looked at it as it doesn't matter, it'll come if I do my job. The dominoes have just fallen, and that hasn't been an issue. We've been very blessed, you know. And fame is another thing. You know, a long time ago, I could have taken this resistol off. Matter of fact, one of the first record labels I ever met with here in Nashville, one of the first things they said was, "Would you be willing to take the cowboy hat off to get a deal?" And I was like, I said, "Do you think I bought this to come see you? Like, this is the way the way I am." And I think that staying strapped to that authenticity and not backing down has really opened the door for me in my career. And what it's also done is it's been able to separate me from a lot of other people. And in that, you know what you're getting when you look at me and you hear me, you talk to me, you know what you're getting. There's no BS, there's no frills. This is who I am. And when you see me on stage and I'm vulnerable and I give you my heart and soul in every song, it's like, man, we believe that, rather than watching somebody and going, it looks like they practiced this in front of the mirror a lot.
Right. Well, it's almost, when you talk about Nashville, we're critics and we don't live there. I'm in Colorado, Wes is in Chicago. Hopefully he's out here soon, but I always say that every time. But it's funny because what we notice with the Nashville like bigwigs or whatever, it's backwards. It's like you're authentic with the hat. They almost approach it like it's a gimmick. What they're actually trying to do is create a gimmick around you. If you take the hat off and you start wearing a flat bill, like that becomes the gimmick. And it's right. Like they think they know better than what the real ones are doing.
Well, I think they want to be responsible for your success. And that's what, so if I'm a record executive and a kid comes in and says, I'll do anything to get a record deal, and I say, okay, well, you got to dress like this, you need this producer, and you need this band. Well, then if they become successful, I get to sit back and go, I made that kid. Right. Whereas in my situation, it's more like, I can't be anything other than myself. I can't. My conscience won't let me. And whenever they see that, the only record label in town that has been willing to work with me, and it's the one that we're with right now, is Warner Music Nashville, that basically said, we want to be in the Cody Johnson business. You don't need us, and we don't necessarily need you, but we want to be in the Cody Johnson business, and we don't want to change anything. And they've allowed me to, contractually, I won't get too deep with it, but I still have my publishing. I still have my masters. Yeah. I still have creative control. We just recorded an 18-track double album, and nobody from the record label even asked me what was on it until it was done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a beautiful situation.
Yeah. And I think like we know that because we're in this business, but I don't know if fans knew that initially. Did you get any of that like sellout talk? Because being a guy from Texas who's authentic as all hell, I imagine some of the hardcore Texas country fans were like, God damn it, we lost Cody.
It happens every time.
I'll tell you what, man, we were in New York City. We were in New York City at what was it, AOL or something like that. We were doing it was like a press conference of sorts, and they gave the microphone. They picked out 5 people in the audience, and I could see this guy. He's sitting over there. He's just like biting his nails. He's stressed out, and I'm like, oh God, what's this guy's question? What's he going to ask me? And he said, are you worried about taking flack for selling out to Nashville with this record? And I said, no. This record was done before we ever signed. This record was recorded, and the record I'm talking about ain't nothing to it. I said, this record was intentionally recorded to not get a deal, to not get played on radio, and to satisfy our fans. I said, so if you think that I'm going to sell out or change, sit back and watch. See what happens. It's that simple.
It's a really funny phrase. We've actually gotten it here and there where it's like, wait, we haven't, but we don't chase the money either. We've turned down stuff left and right for the last X amount of years. And
right.
But like, if you're doing something that's connecting with fans and it just grows organically, which happened to us from like a media side, but happens to people like yourself, you're always going to have those people on social media calling you a sellout. Like Luke Combs blows up. They start calling him, why is he a sellout? Because he sells a lot. People listen to his music. It's like, you can see the ones that really change what they're doing. It's really obvious. That's really
what I was gonna
obvious.
say. To me, the definition of a sellout is, like you said, if I would have gotten a record deal and all of a sudden you don't see me in a hat and boots anymore,
exactly.
that's selling out.
And it's
If
drum
I come to
loops
Nashville and I fire my band of 10 years, that's selling out to me. You know, we've always said, and I'm not talking trash, but we've always said we don't run tracks. We'll never run tracks. You know, a couple nights ago we were playing a show and a bolt broke on one of the drum risers and the drums fell off, and I never stopped playing. And I told my crowd, I said, we don't stop for anything. You know, and they thought that was, but if I'd have had tracks running, those drums would have kept on playing and somebody would have noticed that. It's like that word authenticity out the window. You know, it's like I want to be known as that guy. And it might be a harder road, as you guys know from, like you said, your background from where you come from. It is a harder, less traveled road, but I think it's just more fulfilling. It's more,
totally.
In the long run, it's more fulfilling.
It feels so good because at the end of the night, you can be like, this is mine. It's nobody else's. So if it doesn't work, it's on us, but we have our like dignity and our pride, and we didn't like just chase the money. You know what I mean? There's like a bigger goal at the end of it. And we're all around the same age too. So I feel like there's an excitement to that, right? Like, I mean, people with you, man, I mean, like they do throw out the George Strait comparisons with the live shows. And I mean, you were unsigned, right? And you broke the record for like the Houston Rodeo a couple years back for like the most tickets. I mean, those are bananas numbers. Like wild that a lot of people on these labels for years couldn't even fathom doing.
Guys with number ones couldn't pack a room.
Guys couldn't do 1% of those numbers, you know. And do you laugh at that? The whole like the different segments of the country music world of who can put asses in seats, who is just like a chart type of, because there's the TikTok world now. I love picking the brains of everybody with this TikTok craze because you're not a TikTok guy. I know that.
I'm not a social media guy at all.
Yeah. So it's like, but you know, you get record labels now if you pop off on TikTok, like it's a reality of the business. But I truly feel like people like yourself, that's going to be what kind of sticks. Like it just is. And that sound has gone back to like, I don't want to say you're like 90s country, but you have a little bit of that. Like I grew up on music that sounds like what you do now, which is an amazing thing for me as a fan.
I think that's another thing though. Like, so the way I break this down is, so the way that this goes is kid moves to Nashville, kid gets record deal, producer and label say, here's what you sound like, here's what you look like, let's go cut a record. Kid gets #1 hit on the radio, and now he goes and plays. Yeah, and now he goes and plays for this crowd that has no idea who he is. They have no idea what to expect. The show is not there because he's unpracticed and he's not seasoned. And then you hear the song, and you go, oh, I've heard that song on the radio because they play it every 15 minutes. You know? And it's like,
it's so true.
So, but in a lot of instances that may have worked, and that may be somebody else's path. And like I said, I'm not talking trash, but for me, it was just the opposite. Let's go out and get fans.
Earn them.
Let's go out and earn these fans. That way, no matter where we go in life, they're going to be there. They know that their product that they're buying, me, is there. I'm always going to deliver. I'm always going to deliver that same thing, and I'm not going to be wavered by the trends. And it's like, if you listen back over the last 10 years in country music, what has happened is rock and hip hop PDs have been shoved from that world into the country music world. I had a conversation with someone who's very high up at a company that I'm not even going to mention, very influential, persuasive company within country music. And I said something about, you can't beat a good old Merle Haggard song. And the person said, I'll be honest with you, the only Merle Haggard song I know is like, well, he's got one about mama. And I thought, these are people making decisions in our industry. And you don't know a Merle Haggard song. And if you forget where you come from, your future's doomed. I'm not saying we have to stay stagnant and everybody has to sound like Crying in Your Beer country. There should be, you know, all throughout history. I mean, Kenny Rogers did songs that sounded like pop songs. You know what I mean? He's Kenny freaking Rogers. Everybody, you know, Alabama used drum synthesizers. You know, I'm not saying there's not room for versatility, but when you get so many people on this side that a guy like me is considered too country for radio, man, we got a problem. And that's, you know, we were discussing yesterday or a couple of days ago, actually, we were talking about what singles or what songs off of my new record we would consider singles. And myself and one representative from the label, my producer and my A&R guy, we're all kind of talking. And my producer, Trent Willman, says, if they're already not going to play it, why not release what we want?
Right.
You know, I just got told
Hell
a couple
yeah.
of weeks ago that my song Dear Rodeo was, and I quote, "too rodeo for radio."
Dude.
Because it reminded people of because apparently the word rodeo reminds people of cruelty to animals, which is
Is that really what they're like testing on and stuff?
it's a crazy world.
Dude, to make you feel better, we had a reel on Instagram go viral of a kid practicing one of those little toy things that come out, and he's jumping on the little rodeo thing, and I
Steer wrestling toy.
Yeah, it's like it was a solid move, and the kid was really into it, and we posted the video and put on Dear Rodeo as like the clip, and it popped off and went viral. I was like, come on, you gotta love this song. Where it's like, and then you got Reba on that song, and it's just like, how can you not? I don't know, dude. The whole radio thing is absolute insanity to me.
I don't pay attention to it, and like this is the way.
Yeah.
They don't really know what to think about me, because when I meet these people, they're used to the artist that maybe is not so sure of themselves and they don't really know who they are yet. They haven't experienced enough life or enough career to have that confidence, and so they're saying, "Please, please, please, I'll do whatever I have to do to get my song." Whereas with me, it's like, "Hey, I really want you to play my stuff, but if you don't, thank you for coming out to the show. When you watch the show tonight, this is who I am." You know, and they don't really know what to think about that. And it's, you know, I've been told that kind of hinders me because I'm not willing to just suckle to the power teat. But it's like, and I am who I am. I can't really change that.
Do you ever get that like asshole vibe because you don't play the game? Like we've had, where there's like certain artists that we're really good friends with and fans of who have been like, you know, people think I'm an asshole. And it's like, I just know who I am and I don't play the game. And
it's pretty simple. Yeah. It's just regular guy like yourself.
The game is funny because whenever you're in that position, though, if you're that artist, that radio single could be your income for the next 2 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas for me, it's like, because we've stuck to our guns and I still maintained publishing and ownership of myself, I mean, that's not a drop in the barrel, you know, so it's a little bit different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. This new album, 18 songs. Is that finalized? 18 for sure?
Yeah, it's called Human, the double album.
Human, the double album.
I don't know. I had too many good songs. There was such an outpouring of songs that other artists just wouldn't look at, whether it was their label, their publicist, or whoever, that wouldn't. They're just good country songs, and you know, I just felt like, why not? We've got the time off, we've got the opportunity, we've got the means. Let's go cut them. And so, what it was really cool. What I got to do is I got to take side A and side B, and I sat down for about 3 hours the other day and kind of cross-referenced what songs have similar tempos, what songs have similar feels, what songs have similar subject matters, which ones, and separate those and pair those songs up on side A and side B with complementary songs that complemented each other. So you're really getting 2 albums. And it's been a really fun artistic process for me to be able to separate the music and then have a completely different release order that you're going to get it in, which is a completely different set list. But whenever you hear side A played right through with side B, it's an 18-song set list, just like I would play it live. You know, you mentioned earlier about, you know, Steve talking about the differences in the songs of, you know, bring it up, bring it down. And I really got to do that with this album because I finally had enough material. It was just like planning out a live show. So I'm excited about it. I think this is the best one I've ever recorded.
Where did that name, is it a song on there, Human? That's an interesting title.
I just feel like that, you know, you talk about being a normal guy.
Yeah.
Cody Johnson, human. Like, I am human. And there's a song that is my favorite song. That's a title track. It was written by Tony Lane and Travis Meadows. And, you know, the first lines of the song is, I thought by now I'd have it figured out how not to make the easy things so hard to do. I bet that I'd be further down this road if I could read the signs that point me to the truth. And it says, I never planned on being nothing but a cowboy, but somewhere I picked up this old guitar. And it says, girl, all I can say is I'm sorry if I get kind of careless with your heart. And it spoke to me so much about my life and about my relationship with my wife. You know, the chorus says, all the headlights and all the midnights chasing all that empty still ain't got it right. And it's like, you know, people can look at me in the tour buses and they think, oh, he's got a pile of money and it's all a party. And it's just, I bet life is just perfect, but it's not. You know, I have personal issues that I go through. I have, you know, doubts, and I do have reservations about things. And I want people to relate to that, because we're all in the same boat, man. I don't care if you're a janitor or a rock star. We're all in the same boat. And I feel like that relatability is just another piece of that authenticity. I wanted people to feel that.
I love that.
That's incredible. Did you get any of those 90s cuts that you were kind of looking at? Because there was a while back you said you were like, I'm looking for 80s and 90s country writers.
Yeah.
Was there anything on there that you pulled from the vault of 90s country?
Yeah, there was a few of them. And then honestly, in listening to a lot of that stuff, it kind of brought inspiration for some of the other songs that wound up getting written.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of times it's not the song that you're looking for, it's the catalyst to find the song. And, you know, we were very, very fortunate. I got the opportunity to be a writer on 3 of the songs, and really there's probably 6 or 7 of them that I probably could have been a writer on, but I mean, completely changed the production, completely changed some of the lines to fit me more. And it was a really fun process. I really felt like, from a producer standpoint, I kind of got to rewrite about half these songs and make them, because if I played you the demo and played you my version, they're completely different, you know. But I got to exercise left brain versus right brain a little bit.
I assume that you can't give any info though when that might come out. At some point this year, I think was the last you were at a radio station in San Antonio. You might have said.
No, I can share that with you guys. No, yeah. So this month on May 14th, my song "Sad Songs and Waltzes," written by Willie Nelson, he and I did a duet together, and it's coming out on the 14th of this month, which is today's the 10th. So in 4 days, it'll come out. On June 14th, I believe, we will release 2 more. And in July, we're going to release 2 more. And then all the way to October, we're going to release 2 songs that you're going to get 9 of them. But you're not going to get all 9 from side A and all 9 from side B. This is 1 from A and 1 from B in no particular order. And then in October, we're going to drop the last 9.
Oh, nice.
Leading up to that, in August, we're going to release the documentary, Dear Rodeo, the Cody Johnson story. So, and then sometime in July, we're going to go record a Christmas album. So you're going to get documentary in August. You're going to get the rest of the record in October. And then in December, we're going to have a Christmas album.
And a Kojo Christmas. Hell yeah.
You're a guy that can do it. Some of these people that they have do those, I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's a fun project.
Well, that's what they do though. Like you're talking about the young kids, they get in everyone, nobody knows who they are. Release a Christmas song. It's November.
Yeah. That's an income trick.
Yeah.
But you know, like I've never recorded one, so I think this is going to be really fun. Trent Willman has already written 2 really great original songs. I've had some ideas, just like, you know, obviously I want to record stuff like White Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, my favorite Christmas songs, but also songs that may not be thought about as a Christmas song, like Merle Haggard's "If We Make It Through December."
Yeah.
You know, Why Daddy Can't Afford No Christmas Cheer.
Very important right now, or last December. It seemed very pertinent.
Yeah.
The documentary, which looks awesome, we've shared some of the trailers. Was that a fun project? I assume a really fun project, but a lot of work went into that because you got Reba on there. You got a lot of stuff going on with the song as well. How did that whole project kind of come about where you stopped and said, wait a minute, we should really make this more than just a song. It's a documentary now.
Well, it wasn't me. So my idea was for the music video. I thought, you know, we flashed back to old, you know, photographs of Trevor Brazil and Joe Beaver and a lot of my heroes. And, you know, we'll maybe get Tough Hedeman to tell the story of like when he rode the bull for twice as long for his buddy Lane Frost. You know what I mean? Like, tell that story. And so then Shane Tarleton from Warner Music Nashville says he's good friends with Reba. And says, hey, I played Reba this song, and she is just like, lovely. And I was like, well, what do you think we ought to do it? He's like, maybe would you consider re-recording it as a duet? I'm like, yeah. So then the more they talked about it, Shane said, I think that your idea for the music video is great, but I think that this song is bigger than a music video. I think it needs to be a documentary. And at first I was kind of like reserved about it because I was like, what is this about? He goes, I want to do your life story leading up to now. And I was like, man, I just don't feel like my story is as interesting as you think it is. And the more that I spoke with Sean Silver, the producer, I really started to see the gravity of the story that I've been given to tell. And what that story is the perspective of failure. You know, it's funny now looking back at 34 years old, I'm rodeoing just as much. You know, in the last couple of months, I've won almost $10,000 roping just as a side hobby. And it's funny to me that whenever I quit riding bulls because I wasn't good enough, I didn't see it from the perspective of, okay, maybe there's a different plan for me. Maybe God's got something waiting for me. Maybe I'm not meant to do this. I was just self-centered and really caught up in, well, I failed. And now I'm pissed off at the world and everything sucks. And I don't even want to talk about bull riding. And I was jealous. I was jealous of my friends that were continuing to be successful. And I thought that that's what was going to fulfill my life. I really did. I didn't have the maturity to look ahead and go, what if it is music? What if it's my wife and my kids? You know, there's so much more fulfilling things in our lives that I think a lot of us take for granted. And that was the story behind Dear Rodeo, is be happy with where you're at. Be happy with the failure and the bumps and the bruises that get you to this moment. Because right now in this moment, we're living life that's been granted to us, you know, and I think that story needed to be heard. And lo and behold, Reba had the same story. And so did Taya Kyle, Chris Kyle's wife. And, you know, so did Pastor Randy Weaver from Lone Star Cowboy Church. And so did Trent Willman. And all of a sudden I'm going, we got to do all these stories. You know, we got to record all this and put this out, because it's not about me anymore. It's about getting to tell my story to hopefully change somebody's life or help somebody in a positive way. And I poured my heart and soul into it. I said things on camera that I'd never really said out loud before. And it was almost therapy. You know, I got a lot off my chest, and I believe everybody else involved in the project did too. And it was pretty humbling. And then when I've watched it back now, I watched one of the final versions. We're still editing and doing the little fine tuning stuff. And when I watched it, I just couldn't help it. You know, I broke into tears, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. This is going to help somebody.
Yeah, it looks really interesting. And having Reba on there is like a pretty special thing. And even with the song and the duet, that was awesome to see. Random question, because earlier you talked about investments and stuff. You're one of the few guys that has a cologne. And Wes and I were talking before. We're like, the only name I could think of an artist that has a cologne was back in the day, Tim McGraw, right?
Yep.
Country guys used to have how do you go about? Is it like making your own whiskey? Like you got to like test it and test little things, and making a cologne seems probably not as easy as you would think.
We were pretty fortunate. So what happened was there was a company that had been in business for a little while called, well, I won't say the name just in case, but their logos were the Pendleton whiskey logo, and it was the same as the Pendleton Roundup, the rodeo. And long story short, they got into a class action lawsuit over it. And the man, the husband of the couple that owned it, passed away during all this. And my buddy, my business partner, Woody Lee, says, I went to go try to find this cologne, and I can't. I heard they went out of business. So he finds some of the cologne and buys bottles of it. They give me a bottle with no logo on it and say, would you be willing to try this cologne? I said, sure. So I put it on. My wife liked it. I liked it. I go to the meet and greet, and the very first guy that I take a picture with says, hey, man, that smells good. What kind of cologne is it? The very next person that comes in is a girl, and she goes, you smell so good. I'm like, it was just noticeable. It was a noticeable fragrance. So I said, okay, let's start talking turkey. And basically, we had a lot of inventory that we had to go through that was in those labeled bottles. We had to pay to have the bottle laser cut. We would lose about 20% of the product when we had it rebottled into our program or our bottles. And then we had to, I had to design the tins, design the look, design the marketing strategy, and how we were going to do this. And it just kind of took off, man. It is what it is. It was one of those things that I got the opportunity and ran with it.
I dig it. I got to make me one of those.
Whiskey Riff.
we have to. That's down the road maybe, but that's pretty fun. Also, where was I at? Oh, earlier you mentioned creative control, and you have a really unique situation where you did sign to a label, but you maintain so much of you call the shots, correct? Like you're not worried about the number one on radio. I mean, it's nice, but you want the music to speak for itself and not chase a trend to kind of game the system. Is that harder? Like I hear it, I go, oh, everybody should do that. But you got to be pretty established and with it across the board in order to make something like that happen. And you were coming in, you weren't just some guy just starting. Like you knew your shit before you got into that world.
It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
You have a lot thicker skin. And you have to be comfortable with taking the punches, I guess, you know. But I will say this, like with Warner Nashville, they are worried about the number one. That's great.
Yeah.
I have an entire staff of people that is worried about something that I'm not really worried about. And that's great for the entire team. You know, as far as promotion, I'll give you an example of what it's like. My song with You I Am that I pushed independently and spent a freaking ton of money on went gold at the same time that On My Way to You went platinum. So there's your difference right there. That's what you pay for. That's what you sign the dotted line for, is to have that entire building of people behind you. But it's also come down to, well, guys, I don't really feel like I want to go do this event, or I don't want to do that. Man, we really think you should, because if you do, that gives us the leverage to do these things to help you. Okay, I'll do it. You know, I'm not hard to work with. But also when I've said, I'm not doing that, there's no way, they say, okay. You know, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, why place people around you if you're not going to listen to their opinions?
Yeah.
No, I don't just say it's my way or the highway. You know, we're talking about the first single on this new record.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
It was not my first choice. But when everybody that I've got around me says they feel like that's the one, you got to listen to those people. Otherwise, you know, they're just wasted energy in the room.
Was there any pushback on Dear Rodeo as a single, or was that you trying to drive that train, or was that them, or was it like a meeting of the minds?
No, that was kind of like I said, we've got to release this song, and so they figured out a way to market it, and then lo and behold, the DVD or the documentary came about. So
yeah, because to me it wasn't necessarily like a radio friendly song, but also one of the strongest ones on the album. Like,
right,
such a powerful song. So I just imagined that there was a little bit of like a, hey, we're doing this. Tough.
Yeah, it was kind of like that, but they were very gracious about it, and they did their job.
I was going to ask you too about, so obviously with the Reba, you covered her also recently. You worked with Brooks and Dunn.
Phenomenal.
How does it feel to have these? I mean, you covered George Strait. I wonder if George Strait ever reached out to you after you did that cover that kind of went viral back in the day a few years ago. But how does it feel to have these kind of legends of yesterday kind of look at your music, listen to your music, and respect you so much that they want to work with you? It must be a pretty exciting.
It means a lot.
Yeah.
Because I have respect for those people. You know, they were the pioneers, and I said earlier, they didn't forget where they came from, and it gave them a future. And I'm not going to forget where I come from either. It's them, you know. I'd love to do a duet with George Strait. Love to play more shows, but he's George Strait. You know, I mean, who knows? I don't.
Yeah. Mythical.
Right. Anytime the only time I've been around him, he was just nice and cordial. Took his hat off when he met my wife. You know, just a very, very, he was just a gentleman. And you know, I was impressed by that. They say don't meet your heroes because you might regret it.
Right.
And I could name you 5 right now that I wouldn't pour a bucket of water on if they were on fire. And it's just, and, you know, it's the way it is. But I consider it an honor because that's what I'm shooting for. I'm trying to carry on that tradition. I'm trying to be not only, you know, like you talked about, like being the cowboy. I don't know anybody else in the business that's out rodeoing. You know, I'll go lose just as quick as I can win one. You know what I mean? Loading my horses up, going down the road just like everybody else. And I think that authenticity speaks. You know, and I want to be the guy that the old schools approve of. Because to be quite honest with you, I just don't really care about what the new school thinks.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, preaching to the choir here.
And it sounds like you're winning. You got some. You got quite a few buckles back there.
Those look like wrestling belts. I was telling Wes when you got up to grab a drink or something earlier. I was like, "Geez, are those the awards or what?"
Yeah, those are. So some of them are like for Rodeo Houston, and some of them are some ropin buckles and some cutting horse buckles and stuff like that. I've got some special mementos. Like one of my friends, Justin Richards, his buckles in there that he passed away, and I keep that in there. And it's funny, I played Tuff Hedeman's wedding the other night, just one song, just for their first dance. And as appreciation, a token of appreciation, he gave me the very first buckle he ever won in Vegas. Wow, and I thought it was cool, man. I mean, you know, so I stuck it in there. And I'm wearing my first ropin buckle right now, one this year. it's, it's a sense of pride that you carry, whenever you walk into a room, especially in my industry,
Yeah.
and you've got a champion team roper buckle on, and people they look at you and they're going, "He didn't buy that,"
Yeah. Is roping and cutting kind of your two events, or you don't do any? I imagine you're not bull riding anymore.
No, I got a little bit too much riding on me to be riding bulls anymore. But it kind of irritates me because I'm like in better physical condition now than I ever was when I was 18, 19 riding bulls. And
You still get that itch where you're like, I could do it. I could do
oh
it.
oh yeah. And then I'll go work cows and get my ass kicked by a calf, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I should be just team roping.
Yeah.
That's exciting stuff. Before we let you go, I was curious about, are there any artists today that are similar in maybe in career and age and maybe played on the radio that you do like? Because I looked on Spotify and I saw you have like a little playlist of some of your favorites. A lot of it's the old school greats, but I did see a John Party on there, a Muscadine Bloodline, I believe. Are those some of the guys that you that are out there doing their thing today that you kind of appreciate the most?
Yeah, and like I'm a huge fan of like Corb Lund from Canada. I feel like he's one of the most underrated artists.
Yeah.
And he's because he calls it livestock rock. I mean, it's just country. I mean, it's cowboy music. But there's a place for that Chris Ledoux, stuff. And Ned, Chris's son, is still out there banging it out.
Yep.
Chancey Williams is another good cowboy artist that sings authentic cowboy music. I'm a big fan of the Steelwoods, and I hated to. We lost Rowdy, guitar player, and that was I just don't know. I don't even know what to say about that. But Wes and Bayless and those guys are still out there knocking it down, and I just think that is the coolest thing that they would continue that legacy and continue to go play. I don't know. I'm always finding new artists, and it's hard for me because I try to stick with what I know. Like when you get in my truck, there's a Don Williams CD, there's a Merle Haggard CD, and a George Jones CD. It's like I just kind of stick with what I know, And so I really have to get my wife to help me like search for new artists and stuff. You know what I mean? Because I just keep my head out of the clouds, man. I don't watch TV. I don't really pay attention to it.
Are you a Coulter Wall guy? Are you familiar with Coulter at all?
I've heard some of it. I just Larry, what was it? Larry Fleet.
Yeah.
I listened to the other night. Started listening to some Larry Fleet, and God, what was the other one? I can't remember. Like my guys are always bringing me new music.
Yeah.
Here, listen to this, and I'm like, hey, have you heard this song by Merle Haggard?
Well, for you, you're the type of guy it's exciting about, because if you're a friend or whoever, it's like if you know that person doesn't actively seek it, you kind of want to be the one that gets them onto something.
Yeah, it's very true.
You're that guy.
Man.
Well, my reason asking is that Coulter's like he's a Canadian cowboy too, and I think he turned down an appearance on the Joe Rogan show because he had to work a ranch down in Texas.
See, that's like, the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
And
that's
he was
my
like,
kind of people right there.
He's like, I'm a little busy. Maybe once the season ends a little bit more, I can
got to get through cabin season.
Right. And he was like, I think that was it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And he was like, we'll try and do it. And it's like, damn, I mean, he gets more listeners than Saturday Night Live. So it was like, true, authentic cowboy. And
now you've got me. I'm going to go see, you're that guy right now. I'm going to go look at it.
Yeah, you have to go check him out. Last question. We're having some drinks here. Do you have a hangover cure these days, or is it just ride it out, maybe have a beer and level out the next day?
I'm let's see how I can put this. Pretty seasoned.
Yeah, I feel
I've trained hard. And when I overtrain, I just keep riding it. I feel like hangovers build character.
Yeah.
You put yourself in that position, cowboy, ride it out, little ibuprofen and going about the day.
Yeah. As long as you stay moving. As soon as I get stagnant,
oh man,
you start to feel it. But if you're moving, if you have a beer to kind of shake the cobwebs and you're kind of out doing stuff, or
I'm the opposite. I torture myself. Like, so I'll work out every day, which, I'll do like 5 days in a row, take 2 days off, do another 4 or 5 days, take a couple days off. But like on show days, like say we stayed up too late, listening to music and having some drinks and doing our thing. The next day, I'll just go out there and start busting my butt and making myself sweat it out and just like, all right, son, you put yourself in this position. Let's see what you're made of.
Right.
Are you in the parking?
Your TM's a trainer though too, right?
Oh, okay.
No. So I had my personal trainer out on the road with me for about 2 years, and he moved to Colorado and is doing his own successful training program there. And he's got like think said the other day he's got like 100 and something clients across America, and he's doing it all virtually. He's like, so COVID changed that for him to where he's sending out these videos, and I thought, well, it's really cool. But like, so I have my app, and every day he plans my workouts. There's instructional videos. There's instructions that you can read. And yeah, it's up to me. And I think that's a lot of self-discipline because you have to make yourself do it. Yeah. I don't like being yelled at. And I went to CrossFit classes. I don't like being told what to do. Get out, do this, do that. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this crap. I'm going to do it on my own. But like making myself be motivated to go get it done though does a lot for my brain. Right. But yeah, I carry Bowflex dumbbells that go from 5 to 90 and retention bands and yoga pads, and just get out there and whatever parking lot. Sometimes I go inside the arena or whatever and just do it myself.
That's the way to do it, man. That's the motivation right there.
Yeah.
I think Hulk Hogan said he used to drink some beers before his workouts, if I'm not mistaken. So you can even do that. You can have one to shake it, and then later on that day sweat it out, and you're good to go for the show. But dude, great to finally have you on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully we can see a show live and actually be normal people soon.
We're out playing, man. We're if y'all check out our tour dates, we're all over the place. And right now we're going through the last little bit of these. So we sold some shows during the pandemic, and they had to be socially distanced. Well, they paid a lot of money for that separation. So now you can't just say open it up. So right now we're playing shows with a big VIP area in the front with tables, but it's completely not social distance. There's no masks. I mean, we're finally back to normal, and I'm preaching it on stage. I'm like, doesn't it feel good to be normal? Doesn't it feel good for somebody to not tell you have to put on a mask? You know, I mean, my opinion of the masks is, if I fart through my jeans, would you smell it? What's that mask really doing for you? You know, it's just like, I mean, if we're talking about a disease that's the worst disease ever in history, I just don't believe that mask is going to do it for you. I mean, I know it gives people a sense of control, but I have yet to put one on. I don't.
It's exciting to see live music and real shows kind of kicking back. We're seeing some tour or some festival announcements now. So
yeah, fall shows. Pumped,
dude. Yep.
I'm hearing through the grapevine, everything's fixing to open back up, just like wide open.
Yeah.
I think people are tired of it, man. I think, music, getting to go to a live show and standing elbow to elbow with somebody that you don't know of a completely different ethnicity, a completely different background, and you're all united over one thing for 2 hours. That's beautiful. I think people miss it. I missed it, and it's time to come back.
Well, and it's something you can't get anywhere else. Like we saw Miranda at Billy Bob's last weekend or 2 weekends ago, like break down during House That Built Me. And it's like those moments where like the show takes such a unique turn, and it's like the artist is overwhelmed, the fans are overwhelmed. Like you can't get that on an album. I can listen to as many Cody Johnson albums as I want,
or a live stream.
But you're not going to get that until you go to the show, and then you're gonna have that moment where it's like, all right, right there, that's when I became a fan, or that's when this, or never forget that. And I don't know. I just think I agree with a lot of people that live music is very, very important. Live events, very, very important. And
therapeutic for a lot of people in a lot of different ways, including me.
Yeah.
Well said, Kojo. And we're huge fans, obviously. And thank you for divulging some of the info on the album. We're going to be sharing that. So appreciate it.
I appreciate it very much. Thanks for the time, guys, as always.
All right, let's have some drinks soon when we can see one of these shows.
Cheers.
All right. Thank you, buddy. Take it easy.